I am Kaylin Vance. And at 27 years old, I had officially returned to the neighborhood that had decided 5 years prior that I was utterly disposable. I steered my Audi Q5 through the familiar iron gates, making my way to the sweeping, ostentatious estate where my sister, Seraphina, was hosting her engagement party. My mission wasn't to offer congratulations, but rather, as a data strategy and risk analyst, I was here to finalize and close a piece of extremely old, highly toxic family business. I was 22 when my mother, Judith Vance, the proud owner of a high-end jewelry boutique chain, slammed the door in my face. The argument had been simple. My choice of data analytics was for bookworms with no vision, and certainly not a suitable path for a Vance daughter, who should have been studying law. I remember Judith's final, cutting words perfectly. "You are no daughter of mine, Kaylin. This door will never open for a coward who only deals in soulless numbers." My father, Frederick Vance, a commercial real estate developer, merely watched, his silence reinforcing her contempt. Now, I was cruising up the driveway, having received an ironically elegant invitation to Seraphina's engagement to Julian Thorne, a corporate lawyer who apparently supported my family's financial machinations. The true, viral-worthy irony of the situation was that my parents had spent the last 5 years telling every influential contact in Nashville that I was a high-flying, highly paid strategic consultant based in Switzerland. They claimed my success had soared to an annual revenue of $3 million, all to protect their perfect, polished facade. My return wasn't a request for forgiveness. It was a strategically executed data deployment. They needed me to stay silent and 5,000 miles away to maintain their narrative. But I had decided their story was due for a massive revision. Before even stepping out of the car, I reached for my phone, activated the secure voice recorder, and slipped it into the precise inner pocket of my tailored blazer. I was no longer the broken college dropout they discarded. I was the risk analyst, and the data was about to prove that their perfect family bond was mathematically bankrupt. I stepped inside the grand hall, the sound of crystal glasses and polite, privileged laughter washing over me. It felt less like a home and more like a museum dedicated to the Vance family's public image. But the familiar anxiety I used to feel was gone, replaced by the cool certainty of an imminent systems failure. It took less than 2 minutes for someone to recognize me. Though not the way my parents would have feared, I heard a surprised, genuine voice call out, "Kaylin, is that truly you?" I turned to see Dr. Sterling, the head of the data analytics department at my old university, looking genuinely delighted. I offered him a polite, measured smile, acknowledging his presence. "Professor Sterling, what a surprise. I didn't realize you were in attendance." He walked closer, shaking my hand warmly while studying my outfit. "I'm here as a consultant for one of Frederick's philanthropic projects, but I honestly thought you were in Geneva. Frederick told everyone you were the most expensive strategic consultant in Europe." I let the lie hang in the air, watching him process the dissonance of me standing right there. He added, "I'm so proud of what I hear you've accomplished. You still work in risk analysis, I presume." I met his gaze, my tone light but precise. "Vance family information security is always the highest priority, Professor. And yes, still mitigating risk. Though sometimes the risk originates from the closest proximity." Before he could inquire further, a family friend, Helen, approached, her face lighting up with a practiced socialite's warmth. Helen immediately launched into the narrative my father had meticulously crafted. "It is wonderful you could make it home. Dear, your father simply couldn't stop bragging. He told me you just closed a massive deal in Dubai worth $500,000. I didn't correct her, instead allowing the fabrication to fuel my own strategy. I replied with sarcastic reverence. "A mere $500,000. I must owe Dad a phone call. Then, because I told him I needed to start quoting a higher figure for my overseas work. Helen nodded approvingly, adding, he even keeps a copy of your market risk analysis report in his office to show his partners. You must be so close. I let the irony steep, thinking how diligently they had built the prison of their own lies. I excused myself, drifting through the crowd toward the less frequented back wing of the house, where I knew Frederick often held private business discussions. I saw Seraphina and Julian, already looking stressed despite the joyful occasion, slip into a library room near the terrace. I waited a beat, then pressed myself against the doorframe, ensuring the tiny recorder in my blazer had a clear path. Seraphina was on the phone, her voice tight with anxiety, but Julian's tone was smooth, legalistic, and utterly devoid of ethics. The audio transmission was chillingly clear. I heard Seraphina speaking to my mother. Judith. Mom. Julian has confirmed it. Since Kaylin has been out of contact for 5 years, we can convert the $1,200,000 trust fund into a difficult-to-claim asset and use Julian's corporate attorney status to facilitate the transfer to us. My hands tightened slightly, but my focus remained laser-sharp. This was no longer personal. It was fraud. Seraphina continued, her voice dropping lower. Julian, did you tell Mom that you actually ran into Kaylin at the nightclub last month? Julian's cool, self-assured voice cut in. Don't worry. Seraphina. She's still the pathetic, easily manipulated failure she always was. Just get her to sign the power of attorney papers without reading the content. She won't notice a thing. I backed away silently, the complete recording secured. They didn't just want the money. Julian's confidence revealed a deeper, more calculated play. Not only were they plotting to steal my inheritance, but Julian was lying to Seraphina about the encounter, or worse. He was using that lie to hide an affair he'd just admitted to my mother. The anger I felt was profound, but my next steps were rooted only in cold, precise analysis. I had the evidence. And now, it was time to calculate the optimal point of maximum impact. I found Seraphina and Julian near the dessert table, Julian having just finished a particularly saccharine toast about their future. Their relief at rejoining the party was palpable, but I approached them with the calm, predatory focus of an analyst who has identified the critical vulnerability. I interrupted their private moment, my voice crisp and professional. Hello, Seraphina. Congratulations on the engagement. Julian. I actually think I need some urgent legal advice from you. Seraphina's smile instantly fractured, her eyes narrowing as she assessed my unexpected presence. But Julian maintained his corporate facade. Turning to me with forced politeness, I continued, my gaze fixed on Julian. I just overheard a rather interesting conversation regarding the manipulation of a certain $1,200,000 trust fund and potential legal action. Seraphina's face went white, immediately confirming the veracity of my recorded evidence. She hissed at me through gritted teeth. What are you talking about? Are you trying to cause a scene here? Kaylin. Julian, still attempting to control the environment, replied smoothly. I am a corporate lawyer, and I'm afraid I don't know who you are. We should schedule a proper consultation through my secretary. I didn't move an inch, letting the weight of the moment settle on them. You claim not to know me, Julian, but you just told my mother you met me at a nightclub last month, I stated, my tone cutting through his professional veneer. Julian's eyes flickered with genuine fear now. Recognizing the trap, I leaned in, dropping the first explosive detail. You lied. You didn't meet me. But, Julian, you did meet someone else there. Someone you're currently assisting with, the prenuptial agreement nullification you've been bragging about. Seraphina gasped, her attention immediately shifting from the money to her fiancé's betrayal. Julian tried to interrupt, his voice rising. You're invading my privacy. This is pure slander. I didn't raise my voice. But the sarcasm was surgical. Slander. I'm a data risk analyst. Julian. I specialize in tracing data trails that people like you attempt to encrypt. I pulled out my phone, displaying a single, clean text transfer record. Perhaps you'd like to explain to the State Bar Association about this financial manipulation. Or perhaps just explain to your bride to be about the $20,000 you transferred to an account belonging to Alinda. The commotion finally drew my parents. My mother, Judith, was the first to reach us, her face a mask of furious indignation. What are you doing? You jealous little failure. Do you think you can disrupt my daughter's special day just because you couldn't keep a job? I turned to face her, the professional focus hardening into absolute conviction. I'm not jealous, Mother. I'm simply terminating a fraudulent contract. I addressed my father, Frederick, who had begun trying to physically steer me away from the growing crowd. Frederick, you want to talk about failure? I earned $3 million in revenue last year. And yet you recently failed that $15 million development deal because of fundamentally flawed risk analysis. I gave him a pointed look that referenced his past contempt for my career choice. Do you recall who once said that data analysis was useless? Frederick's jaw clenched, his face turning a deep, dangerous red as Seraphina began to openly weep over Julian's betrayal. I shifted my focus to the onlookers, ensuring my voice carried the necessary authority for the public execution of their reputation. Frederick Vance has been telling you all tonight that I am a $500,000 strategic consultant in Switzerland, I announced, revealing the core lie. The truth is, they disowned me 5 years ago for choosing my own career path. They needed a cover story. And now, they are actively using Julian Thorne's unethical legal status to commit fraud and steal my entire inheritance. Judith, desperate to regain control, resorted to the ultimate personal attack. This girl is bipolar. She needs help. You all know she neglected her mental health and needs legal guardianship. I met her gaze, my expression unwavering. My mental health is perfectly stable. Mother, Reese Kincaid, my business partner, holds my tax filings and medical records, and he can confirm I have been consistently in treatment and perfectly sound for 5 years. My voice dropped lower, carrying a razor edge. My mental health is fine. It is the financial and ethical health of the Vance family that is currently in critical condition. The tension broke the social code. Whispers erupted, and I saw Dr. Sterling watching, his confusion giving way to dawning shock. The public image my parents had so meticulously constructed had been obliterated. The air around the dessert table was thick with scandal. Seraphina, now being comforted by her distraught mother while Julian Thorne had slipped away, presumably to frantically call his legal team. It was precisely at this moment of maximum chaos that Dr. Sterling, who had silently absorbed the entire confrontation, chose to step forward. He addressed my father, Frederick, his voice sharp with professional disappointment. Frederick, I find this entire scenario deeply disturbing, especially given your continuous insistence that Kaylin was vital to the integrity of the Vance name. I watched as my father, who had been struggling to compose himself, stammered a pathetic denial. But Dr. Sterling cut him off with the authority of someone who deals only in hard facts. Dr. Sterling turned directly to me, a sudden opportunity flickering in his eyes. Kaylin, I need to be frank. Your work in data risk analysis, the work they disparaged, is exactly what my department needs, he continued, completely ignoring the Vances. The $400,000 risk analysis project we offered your father's firm was rejected 3 times due to substandard modeling. He looked me squarely in the eye and stated, I am rescinding the contract with your father's development firm immediately and will instead authorize the procurement directly to you. Kaylin, I need a genuine expert. not a fabricated cover story. The sheer audacity of the move, receiving a $400,000 contract right in the middle of a family feud, was breathtaking. I felt a surge of professional vindication that eclipsed the emotional turmoil. I maintained my composed, consultant demeanor, merely nodding and replying, "Professor, I appreciate the opportunity. My firm's analysis always delivers high-integrity results." This massive professional victory served as the perfect distraction, because at that very moment, my legal backup arrived. I saw the calm, focused faces of Reese Kincaid, my business partner and legal expert, and Cameron Bell, my litigation attorney, entering the hall. Reese had located me via GPS after my initial distress text. I walked over to them, the crowd parting nervously. Reese confirmed the situation with a brief, efficient nod. I turned back to my parents, my voice shifting into the authoritative tone of a client issuing demands. "Reese. Cameron. These are Judith and Frederick Vance." I introduced them, placing my family firmly in the category of opposing parties. "They have just confirmed an active conspiracy to commit fraud and steal a $1,200,000 trust fund. We are moving immediately to forced compliance." I didn't give my parents a chance to speak. The time for emotional appeals was over. Cameron Bell, my attorney, took the lead, his voice resonant and commanding despite the festive atmosphere. He held up a pristine document, ready for signatures. "Mr. and Mrs. Vance, we are not here to negotiate. We have concrete, recorded evidence of your intent to defraud Ms. Vance." He paused, letting the severity sink in. "You have two choices. You will immediately sign this legal document, relinquishing all claim to the trust fund and agreeing to cease all contact. Or we will proceed with public fraud charges." Frederick, now relying solely on his ego and his lawyer persona, sputtered a final challenge. "This is financial coercion. This is blackmail." Reese Kincaid, my business partner, stepped forward, his tone brutally logical. "No, Frederick. This is effective risk management. You are facing the risk of litigation and social ruin. Signing this document is the only way to mitigate your losses," he added with a tight smile. "In my analysis, minimal loss is always the optimal outcome." Judith, her composure finally shattered, whispered hoarsely, "We are still your parents." "Kaylin, doesn't that count for anything?" I looked at her, the mask of the analyst finally cracking just enough to show the deep scar beneath. "It used to count for everything, Mother. But you taught me that love is conditional, and I am only valuable when I serve your public narrative." I confirmed to Cameron that my demands were non-negotiable. "Sign the papers." The party is officially over. The final scene was set not amidst crystal chandeliers, but in the sterile, air-conditioned silence of Cameron Bell's downtown litigation office 3 days later. I sat across the polished mahogany table from my parents and Seraphina, who now looked less like the golden child and more like a shell-shocked witness to a financial crime. Frederick made one last desperate attempt at reconciliation, pushing a checkbook forward. "Kaylin, we are family. We can offer you $500,000 cash in exchange for absolute silence and an agreement to withdraw the recordings." I didn't even glance at the checkbook, meeting his gaze with unyielding disdain. "Family?" I asked, the word tasting like ash. "That is a term without value in my current balance sheet." Frederick, $500,000 is not enough to purchase the absolute freedom I now possess." Cameron calmly slid the relinquishment papers toward them, the legal documents acting as their final, inescapable verdict. "Sign the agreement, or I will proceed immediately with filing fraud charges and distributing the recorded evidence to the state bar and every single guest at that party." My mother, Judith, finally picked up the pen, her hand trembling as she signed away her claim to the $200,000 trust fund. She pushed the papers back across the table, her eyes wet with performative sorrow. You will never understand the burden of reputation. Kaylin? She whispered, attempting one final emotional manipulation. I responded without hesitation. The cold reality of my success, the only currency I recognized. You are correct. Mother. I don't understand it. Because I built my reputation on truth and competence. You built yours on deception and debt. One by one. They signed. Each stroke of the pen severing the last fragile thread that bound me to their toxic narrative. I gathered my copies. The successful conclusion to 5 years of intense, isolated effort. My parents stood to leave, looking defeated but still radiating a toxic sense of entitlement. We made mistakes, Judith said desperately at the door. But we are still your parents. You stopped being my family 5 years ago when you threw me out. I corrected, my voice quiet but firm. I am simply ensuring you can never hurt me again. The $1,200,000 trust fund was released to me within the week, combining seamlessly with my agency's existing capital. The fallout for the Vances was catastrophic, a total systems collapse I had engineered. Seraphina lost Julian and found her career advancement blocked by quiet questions of ethics. Frederick's $15 million development deal died. And Dr. Sterling's $400,000 contract officially went to me. They had valued their public image above everything. And I, the analyst they deemed worthless, had systematically destroyed it. I looked at the legal documents affirming my success, realizing that the best revenge isn't destruction, but simply becoming so wealthy, so powerful, and so completely free that their opinions become nothing more than irrelevant noise. Thank you for watching my story of calculated risk and ultimate freedom. Sometimes, the most satisfying revenge isn't a dramatic outburst, but a perfectly executed data analysis. If you've ever had to fight alone to claim what is rightfully yours, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. Join me next time for another story where the numbers always tell the unvarnished truth.